Welcome to this week's Tanya class. We are studying chapter 9. In Hebrew it's called Tes. In English it's called chapter 9. So chapter 9 in Tanya, as we explained as we go through Tanya, every chapter is a foundation, because since this is the Bible of mysticism, so every chapter is a foundation. It's not just, fluff, but everyone is a foundation in a different area. And this chapter happens to be a very, very powerful chapter, because it really deals with the essence of every struggle that you have, with whether it's from within or whether the struggle is from without. So every time there is a struggle, if you go to the heart of the struggle, if you go to the heart of the conflict, if you go to the heart of the challenge, Tanya in chapter 9 takes you to the back room of the struggle. And by really taking you to the back room of the struggle, guess what? You get to see the source and the root of the conflict. And once you deal with the cause, the source, it's very easy to resolve the issue, because you're dealing with the essence of the issue. So in this chapter, in chapter 9, the Alter Rebbe says like this: that as we discussed up until now, we know already that every single one of us have a godly soul and we have an animal soul. As discussed in the last chapters, every one of us has a godly soul that implements its godliness in the intellect, the emotions, in our actions, and in our garments, thought, speech, and action. And the animal soul wants to do the same exact thing. Here the Alter Rebbe says, I'm going to tell you what the root of the godly soul is, what the root of the animal soul is, in reference to the struggle, in reference to the conflict. And that is as follows. So the Alter Rebbe starts off by saying, if you take the animal soul, where does the animal soul hang out? What's its comfort zone? If you want to find your animal soul, right? Where do you find it? Now we're talking obviously on a spiritual level. Where do you find your animal soul? You have a head, you have a heart, you have feet, your hands. If you're looking for your animal soul, where are you going to find him? So the Alter Rebbe says that the place that the animal soul hangs out is where? In the heart. And specifically in the left part of the heart, the part that's full with the blood, which the blood resembles the heat, the excitement, the passion. So if you're looking for the animal soul, it's there. Now, why is the Alter Rebbe telling this to us? What, to know where to find them? No, but to know what the spiritual makeup of the animal soul is. In other words, what's the buttons that gets pushed to get the animal soul going? What is its driving force? And who is the animal soul in its source? And again, as we remember discussed before, the animal soul is not bad and good. It's not about bad and good. The animal soul is just a driving force that thinks about self, wants things for self, and its driving force is, how does it make me feel right now? So what the Alter is saying is, what is the source of the animal soul? Its hangout is in the blood of the heart. What does that mean practically? It means very simple. That what gets the animal soul going is emotions, feelings. How do I feel right now? Do I feel I want to say something? I say it. Whether good or bad or indifferent. Do I feel I want to go now somewhere? I go. If I don't feel like I'm going, I'm not going to go. Now obviously the animal soul has access to the intellect and has access to your actions. But its driving force, its starting point is always, how does it make me feel? How do I feel? If I feel great, I'm gung-ho. I don't feel good, I'm not going to do it. Now, does it mean it's bad, good? No. It just means that's a starting point. Sometimes it could be excited about something good, if it feels great. But sometimes it can be excited about something neutral, and sometimes it can be excited about something actually not negative. Once it gets excited about it, because the starting point is the excitement, then it pulls in the intellect and comes up with a plan how to do it. Or it pulls in its feet and let's go for it. But what is the root? What is the starting point? The heart, the emotions. And that, you'll soon see, as we get into it, is an important piece of information to know. A, to know what you're dealing with, and B, to know what you're up against, and C, to know how to combat it. So that's the first piece of information, important piece of information that we learn in chapter 9. Second important piece of information is as follows. The godly soul, where does it hang out? In your body. Where does it hang out? Very good. In your brain. Godly soul hangs up by the computer. Your spiritual computer. What does that mean? In other words, again, to clarify, the godly soul, just like the animal soul, has access to your intellect and your emotions and your actions and your feelings, etc. That's not the question. It has full access, just like the animal soul had. The difference is, we said the animal soul starts out with the feelings, and then from there it attacks or it infiltrates into the mind, and it justifies any behavior it wants to do or did, and then follows through with action. The godly soul, on the other hand, its starting point is what? Is in your brain. And its first question always is, what does God want me to do? You cannot get past second base or past first base with the godly soul without asking the simple question, what does God want me to do right now? So once the godly soul asks, okay, what does God want me to do now? Wants me to pray now? Wants me to study? Wants to do a mitzvah? Fine. Then it gets excited and it gets passionate about it and it goes and it does it with enthusiasm. If right now God says, do nothing, or meditate, or whatever God asks you to do, irrelevant how you feel about it, the feelings will come afterwards. God asked me to do this. Oh my gosh, I have a mission from God. I'm ready to do it. So you see that the starting point, and you'll see why it's important, from the godly soul and the animal is two different worlds. In other words, let's take it a step further. The starting point of the animal soul, it's all about what? Me. How I feel right now. And it can change every minute and every hour. In other words, if somebody's life is driven by their animal soul, how stable are they going to be?
Not very.
Again, not bad and good. They're not going to be stable, just like the heart's not stable. 1 minute it's hot, 1 minute it's cold. 1 minute it wants to go here, 1 minute it's go there. Someone that's driven by his godly soul, how stable is it going to be? Perfect. How on target is going to be? Perfect. It always asks one simple question. What does God want? And whatever God wants, that's what it does. So once we see and we learn about this major point, then it's very simple. When you have a conflict and a struggle, what's the simple question? Who is running my life at this moment? Before you get to what, sure, if the godly soul's in control, that's not the issue. But if you're having a conflict, think about when you're having a conflict, an internal conflict, stop. You will see that the conflict, at the root of the conflict, position A, position B, right? Thought like this, the root, because, if you could the godly soul have a conflict with itself? No. One question, what does God want? No. Does the animal soul have a conflict with itself? No. I feel good, I'm doing this. I don't feel good, I'm not doing it. The conflict comes when, on one hand, you want to do the right thing, and on one hand, you want to do what feels good. So once you know what the root of the, we're giving it names, what the root of the conflict is, okay, this is your godly soul speaking, this is your animal soul speaking. So the answer is, what do you want to do? You got it? So this is so helpful to really help yourself with any conflict you have internally, within yourself. Sometimes you have, two different opinions, you're not sure, should I do this, should I do that? Get to the root of it. One is going to be rooted in the godly soul, and one is rooted in the animal soul. And then obviously, once you establish what the essence of the conflict is, for sure you're going to listen to your godly soul. Or if you have two people that are arguing, one of them, right? Because if you both want to do what God wants, what's the argument? And if you want to do both what feels good, so fine. You might not necessarily agree, but you both can do it. But so ultimately, you'll be able to see what the root of the argument is. Okay, that is the first part of the chapter 9, which is an extremely important part. But here, the Alter Rebbe says, okay, now that we have this information, now what does that mean practically to us? And he says like this. God gave each and every one of us a godly soul and an animal soul. Now, the reality is, if we only had a godly soul, what would life be like? Wonderful. You get up in the morning, hey, what does God want for me to do today? Do it. Throughout the day, you have any conflicts? No. What does God want? Oh, you want me to do this? No problem. You want me to say this? I do that. You want me to think? No problem. It's very simple. Or if you just had an animal soul, hey, I feel like doing this. I don't feel like doing it. In a certain way, it's simple. Here, the Alter Rebbe says, that's great if God gave us one soul. But he gave us one body. In the body, we have two souls, the godly soul and the animal soul, which the godly soul and the animal soul are two different worlds. And each one wants to rule my life. The godly soul wants me to think first, what does God want? Based on that, to get excited about God wants. In other words, it's not like the godly soul is a computer. Let's make that clear. The godly soul doesn't want you to live like a computer. The godly soul wants you to think like a computer. And once you know what the right thing to do is, then live. Be happy, be excited, be joyful. Pray with alacrity, right? Study. Be passionate about doing a mitzvah. You can have the same and even more passion about anything else you're doing that the animal soul wants you to do. The only difference is, he wants to check it out first whether this is what God wants. But he's not at all, and don't make that mistake to think that he doesn't want you to be happy. He wants you to be even more happier. So the godly soul wants you to get excited about life. After, obviously, it's okay. It's what you need to do. And to do what God wants. The animal soul, on the other hand, right, wants you to do what feels right. Don't ask what God wants. Look into your heart. What has to feel? And that basically becomes a major conflict. A major conflict. So the Alter Rebbe says that the conflict that exists is a deep conflict, but when the godly soul takes charge and gives you a direction and gives you a vision, the key thing to remember and to underscore that not only does he want you to have a good life, he wants you to even have a better life and a more enjoyable life than the animal soul would give you. Now you might think, what do you mean? How's that possible? The animal soul starting off with the emotions, the animal soul starting off with the excitement of life, right? So how can it be the godly soul is going to give me more passion and more excitement about life? So the Alter explains something which is very, really, very phenomenal. He says like this, that when the godly soul thinks of what does God want? Wants me to study, wants me to pray, wants me to do mitzvot, wants me to be respectful, right? Everything God wants me to do. And I'm ready to do it, and I go ahead and I do it. So you'd think, hey, that's robotic. He says, no. Because there's two parts, as we said before, to the heart. There's, so to speak, spiritually, the right side and the left side. The right side is the part of the heart that gets excited about doing the right things. Doing what God wants. You're passionate about it. You're passionate about Torah study, about doing mitzvot, and about praying, correct? But the left side of the heart, because the animal soul is there, It wants to do what it wants. So the question really is, how can you, if the godly soul's in charge, create excitement and passion in the heart greater than if it was just coming from the animal soul, which is just excited. So the author explains like this, and he says as follows. That, true, when the godly soul wants to do what God wants, so it's almost in a certain way like robotic, and you get excited about what God wants, but he says no. He says because when you take the left side of the heart that wants to just enjoy life, the animal soul wants to enjoy life, so what happens? It wants to enjoy life. So here, let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, you like eating, right? We all like eating. Everyone likes different foods. Some people like, grass and carrots. Some people like ice cream, chocolate, maybe a steak, sushi, some wine, whatever you like eating, right? So the way your animal soul approaches it, hey, it looks good, it tastes good, let's enjoy. How does it feel? It feels great. Sit down to a nice dinner, right? Or lunch or dessert, whatever it may be. Whatever you like, you sit down, you enjoy it. It's wonderful. Who is that talking? The animal soul, he likes it. How great is the enjoyment? As great as the food is, and as long as the meal lasts, right? The meal is over, enjoyment's over. Till what? The next meal. Now, what happens if you eat and you enjoy? And you keep on eating and you enjoy? And you keep on eating and you enjoy? What happens? You start putting on some excess weight. And then when you look in the mirror, how do you feel? Or if you have to fit into, let's say, a suit or a dress for like a wedding or bar mitzvah.
So I know how to blame my animal soul.
Right? You don't feel so great. So now, there's two ways to diet. One way is diet, oh my gosh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, right? Now what happens when you can't eat this, can't eat that, and you look at food, how painful is it? It's very painful. I like that, I want it, I can't eat it. I can't eat it. So what happens now? It's painful. That's one way to diet. And that's a painful way to diet. That's restricting the animal soul. You're taking the animal that wants to eat, right? We all have an animal within us. We want to consume, and you say, no, you can't eat it. Because, right, whether you're doing it to yourself or a parent's doing it to a child, right? Either way, it's restricting and doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great. But then there's another way. Not that you can't eat. True that when you eat this, it makes you feel good for this minute. And it's enjoyable. You can't knock it. It is enjoyable. But I have a better prize for you. You know what I have a prize for you? That, next time you get dressed, you're going to look in the mirror, you're going to feel great. And you'll be able to wear the nice suit that you were saving for your son's bar mitzvah or wedding or your friend's engagement party, whatever it may be, or your own engagement party, right? So next time when you see the piece of chocolate, it's not that you're saying, I don't want that. Because I don't want is I don't want. Is I don't, and it doesn't feel great. So you don't say I don't want. No. Chocolate. I want something bigger and better. I want to be able to fit into this nice suit, dress, right? And look in the mirror, feel good about myself. Or be healthy. So in other words here, so the example would be like, it's like, for example, I tell you, here is $20 to go buy something. And you say, great, I'm so excited. But I tell you, no, but if I give you the $20 today, tomorrow I was going to give you $1,000. So it's pick and choose. Do you want the $20 today, or do you want $1,000 tomorrow? But you have to wait till tomorrow. So it's not even a question. You want the $1,000 tomorrow. So if you look at it, I can't have. If you focus on the fact that you can't have the $20 today, it's going to be painful. I can't have it. Who's thinking of the 20 when you have $1,000 tomorrow? It's the same idea. When you think about the thing you can't have, it's painful. But when you think about whether it's in food arena, the dress, the way you're going to look in the mirror, or if it's in the money area, you can't have this, but tomorrow you're going to have something bigger. So as long as you're focusing on the positive future, greater, bigger reward, who cares about the small thing I don't have? I didn't want that. Because I want something bigger. In order to get something bigger, I can't have this. So it's not that I don't want this. I want the bigger prize. So the Alter Rebbe says the same thing also. The godly soul's approach to the feeling in the heart where I want something, it's not that I can't have that. No. Every time I say no, it's not that I'm saying no to this, because I really want something greater and something bigger. In other words, what I really want, I want to have real happiness, real joy. In other words, here, let me give you an example, right? So, because it's a deep concept, a little difficult, but it's a beautiful concept. I'll give you another example. There was a very righteous man, passed away. All things, good things come to an end. He passes away, comes to heaven. And they say to him, you lived a good life, ready to take you to heaven. So he says to him, thank you, I appreciate it. But I hear so much about hell, I would like to get a tour of hell. What's wrong with that? You want a tour from hell? He was never there. He's not planning on going there, but to see what it's like, right? A tour. So he says, sure, no problem. They take him to the elevator. See, in heaven they have elevators also. They take him to the elevator, and they go inside. Yeah. The angel, together with this man. They push the button, 0. And the elevator starts going down, floor. And sure enough, the elevator door opens. And wow, to his surprise, this looks like, not that he ever went on a cruise ship, but this looks like the lobby of the nicest cruise ship that exists in the world. Beautiful lobby, beautiful chandeliers, beautiful big tables, nice chairs. I mean, gorgeous. And when he came down, it was actually dinner time. And he sees by dinner, they have waiters and waitresses. They have a huge big, like a real royal table, huge buffet down the center of the table. And everyone comes in, and everyone sits down. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is hell. I mean, this looks like better than heaven that we had in the world, right? And they sit down to dinner. Everyone sits down, and they want to eat. So the way it works in hell is everybody has attached to their hand, they have a fork that's tied on, and the fork is 4 feet long. So they pick up the hands with the fork, and they want to start eating. But the problem is you have a 4-foot fork. Go try to eat with a 4-foot fork. It doesn't work. And they try and eat. Beautiful room, right? Air conditioned, delicious hot food on the table, right? His mouth is already dripping from the food. And they have these 4-foot forks, and that's hell. They can't eat. Right? I got it. Let's go back. He's done. He goes up to heaven. They go up to heaven, comes to heaven, and he arrived by dinner. Sure, he gets a look. Also gorgeous room, big tables, big chairs, also beautiful food down the middle. Everyone's sitting down to eat, and also, sure enough, they pick up their hands, 4-foot forks. So what happens over there? The guy sticks his fork in, and he immediately, to the other side of the table, feeds the guy across from the table. And the guy across the table immediately feeds him. You have 2 people, one is in hell, same scenario. But because he's only thinking about himself, guess what? It's hell. And it's painful. He's starving. The guy in heaven, same situation, but because he's focused on feeding somebody else, he feels good he's helping somebody. And meanwhile, someone else is taking care of him. That is heaven.
That's it. Compassion.
So in other words, so if you look at it from a selfish perspective, hey, I have nothing to eat. But if you look at it, I have an opportunity to help somebody. I'm not if you focus, I can't eat. That's really living in hell, because it's all about me, and I can't feed myself. How much can I feed myself already? But if you look at you trying to help somebody else, that's heaven. So in other words, what the Alter Rebbe is saying is, when you take for a moment and think, what does God want? God wants me to live a godly life. God wants me to help people. God wants me to pray and to study Torah. And I can only eat this, and I can't eat that. I'm not focusing, I can't eat that. I'm focusing, God wants me to eat only kosher. And God wants me to do certain mitzvot. So I have my restrictions, but it's not that I have a restriction, because God wants me to be a special and unique nation. So when I'm basically abstaining from, let's say, doing what I don't want, doing what I want to do, I'm not going to do because God doesn't want me to do it. I'm doing what God wants me because God wants me to do it. So if I'm looking in the fact that I'm not doing what I want, that's hell. But since you're really focusing on doing what you want, that creates tremendous pleasure. In other words, or it's like there's another term that's used in mysticism, that when a person follows his godly soul, that's what a godly soul wants, right? Prays, studies, and that part is easy to him, correct? That part is easy. It's easy to pray, you study, you do mitzvot. Anything that's easy for you, because the godly soul does it and you're ready to do it. In mysticism, that's called Tov. You know what Tov means? It's good. It's good. Now it's time to pray. Okay, I'm ready to get up to pray. Now it's time to study, I study. Now it's time to help people, I help people. That, the highest mark you'll get in your test is what? Is good. You want to get Tov Ma'od, right? Which that's good, very good. How do you get the very good? So it's brought down in mysticism, explains very simple. You know when you get very good? When you don't want to pray right now. Or you don't want to study right now. Or you don't want to do the mitzvah right now. And you do it anyway? Now you get very good. Because why? Because now you harnessed who? You harnessed your animal soul. You harnessed the left part of your heart that didn't want to do it, that only wanted to do what it wanted to do. And you got it excited to do what God wants. You got it excited to have a relationship with God. Who? Not the godly soul. The godly soul we know has a relationship with God, but the animal soul got excited. That's when you get the very good. So notice what the Alter was saying is that when a person uses his godly soul, not only to do what God wants where he's convinced and where it makes sense and it feels right and he does it automatically. No, but he does what God wants when and where?
Even when he doesn't want to.
Even when he doesn't want. And specifically he doesn't want, that's when you create the very, very good. And the last point that I'll finish off in this chapter, Tanya, brings it full circle. You have to realize that what? The animal soul wants full control also. He wants what? To do what he wants to do. And he wants the intellect to follow him, the action to follow him. But the Alter says, at the end of the day is, what does the animal soul really want? Deep down. Does it really want you to follow him, or does it want you to do what God wants?
It wants to please God.
Exactly. Ultimately, the animal soul really wants to please God. Why? Think about it. Who created the animal soul?
God.
God. Who gave the animal soul the job to try to derail you and try to test you? God. So even though his job is to test you, but does he really want you to fail? No. He wants you to pass the test. And that's the difference between a good teacher, a teacher that really cares about the student, or a teacher that really has a bad streak to him. A teacher that has a bad streak is going to find a way to get you to fail, to get you a lower mark, to break you. A real good teacher's goal is to get you to have hundreds. Because he knows he's only testing you to get you to work a little harder. But he doesn't really want you to fail. He really wants you to get the 100, the 99, 95. That's his goal. So he tests you just enough to get you excited and get you going, get you to work a little harder. In other words, if, for example, you're holding by 6, he's not going to test you at 10. He'll try to get you between 6 to up to 7. And that will be 100 for you, because his goal is to bring you up a notch. Because ultimately, what's the job of the teacher? He wants you to feel bad, he wants you to do good. A real teacher, a real parent wants you to do well. So he just encourages you to step up a little higher. Once you get there, he'll bring you a little higher, and eventually he'll get you to reach your potential. So that's why this chapter is extremely important. Because this chapter really is the outline of every single challenge we have in our life. What's leading us is our animal soul, how we feel right now, or what God wants. And as long as you can always remember, simple, to ask the simple question, what does God want? this is what God wants me to do, I'm ready to do it. And when it's easy for you to do it, that's great. And when it's hard for you to do it, and you do it anyway, that's extremely great. And that's where you can really, really score big points. So it's a win-win situation. You're doing what God wants. And when it's easy, you're doing what God wants because it's easy. And when you're doing what God wants because it's hard, guess what? That's when you win the spiritual lottery. So all in all, it's a home run. So as you can tell, this chapter really identifies, if you think about it, your struggles in your life, internal struggles with other people, this is at the heart of it. And by knowing this and really, studying this chapter and meditating on it, it really allows you, it empowers you that anytime you have a struggle, you have a place to go to identify your struggle, and B, it empowers you to realize that even the struggle that you have that's really testing you, the test is not really real. The test is ultimately to bring you out to get to your potential. So when a person's struggling, I had a hard day, that's great, that's okay. Because guess what? Beyond and behind the hard day is really God giving you like a gentle push. You can do a little more, you can do a little better. And if we continue just to ask the simple question, what does God want? We'll do what God wants, and when it's easy, it's great. And when it's difficult and we do what God wants, it's extremely great.